Greetings, my friends. I'm George from No Nonsense Metal Reviews. Welcome to today's review, which is in fact concerning one of the real anomalies of sort of modern death metal. I would say it's modern. They haven't been around for too many decades yet. Death metal has been established for quite a number of decades now, but I would say that Bloodbath, the mighty Bloodbath, a supergroup, if you will, paying homage to not just one specific scene, such as the Scandinavian scene, but also to just good old school death metal across the board, including the American or the Tampa scene. They are just playing good old school death metal and they are absolutely killing it. And this album, Survival of the Sickest, their 6th album, full-length album to date, is an absolutely delightfully, disgustingly gory and rotten masterpiece. So, Bloodbath, as I say, a supergroup. We have quite a few well-known, prolific names within this outfit. We have Mr. Nick Holmes on vocals, who you may be familiar with from a little outfit called Paradise Lost. He is the vocalist of Paradise Lost, and he has an amazing death growl, real guttural growl. Sounds brilliant. Sounds just as good here as anywhere else on any of the other Bloodbath albums, or any of the Paradise Lost albums, as a matter of fact, because, of course, in recent years, Paradise Lost have been leaning back towards a little bit more of the death doom rather than experimental stuff. But, hey, that's not the point. Nick sounds great here. We've got Anders Nostrum, and of course we have Jonas Renksy, Jonas on bass and Anders on guitar, who of course you will be familiar with from the mighty Catatonia. Then we have Thomas Akvik on guitar, fairly new to the band in fact, and Martin Axenrot on drums. So you've got some talented musicians here. You've got some renowned names. You've got members of Paradise Lost, and you've got Catatonia, and countless other bands as well. So you've got a good pedigree here. If you're not familiar with Bloodbath, their history has included also Peter Tagtren from Hypocrisy, and then we've also had Michael Ackerfeld from Opeth. Both vocalists there. Absolutely fantastic, bestial vocals that they both performed respectively. But Nick has been with the band for the most number of studio albums, 3 albums now, and he absolutely just sounds like a monster. He just does a great performance. And lending a helping hand, we also have guest contributions from Mark Greenway, Barney Greenway from Napalm Death. We also have Luke LeMay from Gorguts, American technical death metal band, old school death metal band. And we also have Mark Brewer from the mighty Morgoth lending vocal help in hand as well. So you have some very well renowned death metal vocalists lending their talents just to make this even more grisly and gruesome, just like that artwork, which is inescapably disgusting and wonderful at the same time. So, talk a little bit about some of these tracks. I previously mentioned that Bloodbath essentially pay homage because they are fans of old school death metal, paying homage to the old, early Scandinavian, particularly, and European death metal, the likes of the mighty Entombed or God Macabre, bands like that, Carnage maybe, Dismember, that early, very raw, very rough, very putrid, buzzsaw, heavy guitars, death metal. And then they are contrasting that with the slightly more sharp-edged and slightly more, should we say, better produced, certainly a different level of production, the American scene, where we had bands like Deicide, Obituary, Cannibal Corpse, Morbid Angel. We had all of those great bands, those legendary bands, but they did have a very different production quality. And they also had a very different take on death metal. So if you imagine fusion of those two styles of death metal, this, my friends, is exactly what you get here with the mighty Bloodbath. Kicking off the album with Zombie Inferno. That is an absolutely beautiful old school death metal track. It's fast, it's heavy, we've got some really crunchy riffs there, some brilliant vocals from Nick, the drumming is furious and thunderous. It's just brilliant. It's a fantastic example of Bloodbath's unique sound. Because of course, I mentioned there that they draw on the influences from these two different scenes, or the wider old school death metal scene as well, I presume. So the UK bands, for example, the likes of Bolt Thrower or Cancer, and many others, the Mighty Carcass. But they have their own sound. And that's the thing with Bloodbath. They have their own sound, which is fused out of all of these different parts and influences and elements that they've absorbed from these different bands and these different scenes. So although Zombie Inferno is a furious, you could say it's almost a bit of an American sounding, that American scene, which I always feel was the thrashier of which side of the Atlantic. The US stuff sounded a little bit thrashier than what the European stuff was sounding like. But it still sounds like just good old Bloodbath. Likewise, the second track, Putrefying Corpse, which has Barney Greenway guesting on there, that does have a little bit more of a European twist to it. And you get that throughout this album, like Malignant Maggot Therapy. I would say that's a little bit more of an American sound. Or To Die is very much leaning towards a Carcass-esque European sound, or British sound, in fact. It's just brilliant stuff. We won't dissect it too much, we'll just appreciate the brilliance of this grisly death metal. And as I say, those first two tracks, Zombie Inferno, what a way to kick off an album. Putrefying Corpse, absolutely magnificent stuff there. Dead Parade, we've got a great groove, a sinister sort of eerie tempo to it. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Malignant Maggot Therapy, almost a little bit of a deicide edge to it, a little bit of Morbid Angel perhaps going on there. I think the danger is if you try and dissect it too much, you're looking for the sounds of other bands present in this very unique sounding hybrid band. But you do pick up on these little influences here and there, such as Carved and Born Infernal, where you have guests from Luke LeMay, from Gorguts. You pick up on that sort of American traditional old school death metal sound, which is no bad thing in my opinion. I'm a big fan. Tales of Melting Flesh, another great one. Personal favourites on this album. Got a brilliant track in Environside. Absolutely brilliant, crushing stuff. And the death doom laden, dark, mighty, thunderous, can't think of too many more adjectives for that one. No God Before Me, which is a very dark track. Almost has a little bit of a Paradise Lost kind of vibe to it. Brilliant way to close the album. It's just a fantastic album. Personal favourites. If I had to pick maybe 3 tracks to say, go and listen to these tracks and you'll be converted, that this is a fantastic album and you'll want to listen to the whole thing. Zombie Inferno. Hands down, absolute masterpiece. I would say Carved, with its brilliantly brutal riffs there. Absolutely love that. It's so nasty and sinister. And To Die. Fantastic. Absolutely love that. To Die is a bit of an interesting one because it's heavy, it's catchy, it's very memorable. It's a real standout, certainly the riffs. A little bit of an obituary vibe in there as well at times. It's just a fantastic, fantastic song from a fantastic album. So if you like old school death metal, if you like bands like Carcass, because there's definitely more than a hint of Carcass thrown in here. I've noticed on repeated listens you pick up on certain Carcass-isms, if you like, in the fact that Carcass always sounded a little bit more unique. They had a little bit more of a alternative edge to them. So if you like bands like Carcass, if you like Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, if you like Dismember, There is not much that you wouldn't love about Bloodbath if you're not already a fan. If you're new to death metal, if you're just not that big into the scene, then I would strongly recommend checking out Survival of the Sickest, because it is a fantastic album, really brilliant material, brilliant musicians. There's not much not to like here. So check it out. The Mighty Bloodbath, the wonderful Survival of the Sickest. Check it out and let me know what you think. Are there any other fans of Bloodbath out there? Any other fans of this album in particular? Very interested to hear, as always, of course. But thank you very much for watching, my friends. Do check back soon for more reviews and recommendations of all things good and heavy. Feel free to like and subscribe as well, as always. It's very, very much appreciated. But do take care, my friends, and stay heavy.